What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Rome Reviews. I'm Rome, and this is the OnePlus 13R and the Oppo Find X8. Um, Before we jump into this, I want to just make sure everybody understands that I am aware that the OnePlus 13R is a mid-range device, and the Oppo Find X8 is a flagship. Although it is a kind of like it's not a pro. Obviously, it's not in the name, or it's not a pro or an ultra. Which both of those devices now exist. The Ultra was just released recently, very recently, like a few days ago. But anyway, I am aware. And the only reason actually that I'm doing this comparison is because both of these devices are very near the same price. I got the Oppo Find X8 for $555 at the time at the time I purchased them, obviously. And I got the OnePlus 13R for 600 and a little bit over $600. So the mid-range device was actually more expensive than the uh, flagship device. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into the build quality. And I can say immediately, while this device with the aluminum rails and the way that they did these, it does feel slightly more premium in hand. But overall, the layout is going to be exactly the same since OnePlus and Oppo are sister companies, brother companies, whatever you want to call them. They are related. Long story short, very closely related. You'll see the layout. You do have the IR blaster on the top on this one, and I believe that that's the IR blaster on this one. If I'm not mistaken, I need to confirm that just to be sure. And you have a few more holes there. And let's go to the other side where you have the volume rocker or alert slider, which they did away on the Oppo Find X8 Ultra. They did away with that. They put an action button there. I don't know what they call it, but it's an action button. And I'm really gonna miss the alert slider if I decide to get the Oppo Find X8 eventually. But anyway, both devices do have optical fingerprint readers in the screen. Now let me double check just to be sure that both devices. Let me put them down so they're easier to manage. All right, so let's go into settings. Let's go into security and privacy there, and password security here. Nope, not security and privacy. All right, so we have face unlock on here. Yeah, device unlock. So you have fingerprint and face unlock available on both devices. So let's go back. So while I'll say that when I did have face unlock set up, it did work fairly well in well-lit areas. It falls victim to the same issues that most face unlock has outside of like maybe the iPhone and a few other really premium devices that have like the more heavily applied technology in the selfie cameras where they really do like the 3D build of your face in the camera and so on and so forth. But anyway, they fall victim to where they need really well lit areas in order to work really well. Now they will light up the screen if the area is too dark or the room that you're in is too dark to help with that. But mostly you want to just use the fingerprint if you're not in a well lit area. All right, so moving on from that, we're going to go ahead and jump into the about section of both devices. Now, what I really have grown to love about foreign devices is they really put a lot of information in the about section of each device on their OSs. Um, I'm not really familiar with that. I was really pleasantly surprised, I should say, when opened one of these devices and went into the about section and saw the layout. They have a nice little graphic up there up top, and you can click on it to get more information about it, what current OS version you're on. But even down below, it actually really tells you about the device, which is lovely. Software update available. I'll do that in a minute. Okay, okay. I love a good update. So anyway, moving on, you'll see that the processor. All right, so you'll see that the processor is the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 on the OnePlus 13R. And I mean, if you've had like one of the last generation of a couple of Androids, that has Snapdragons in them. We're all mostly familiar with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, and it is a really, really solid mobile platform for these phones. And the MediaTek Dimensity 9400, I want to say that the Vivo X200 Pro has MediaTek 90. I'm going to have to look that up. One second. All right, sorry about that. So I had to look it up just to be sure. So yes, the Vivo X200 Pro has the MediaTek Dimensity 9400 in it, and we can see, yep, Dimensity 9400, and this is a really, really solid chip that's in this device. I mean, I haven't noticed any hiccups while using the device at all. And really between the two, I don't do benchmarks typically. If you guys really, really would like for me to start benchmarking devices, if you're really interested in that, I will start doing it. But for me, I just like to pay attention to the day-to-day performance and how it feels while I'm using the device. And I can tell you that I feel absolutely no difference between these two devices. All right. So moving on, this OnePlus 13R has the 6,000 milliamp hour battery, which is the larger battery. And this one has the 5630 milliamp hour silicon carbon battery, which is the newer technology of battery, which allows them to just basically fit a larger battery capacity wise inside of the device while not using as much space, so the battery could be thinner. So let's go back. All right. And we're going to move on down. Both devices have 12 gigs of RAM at the moment, and they have that virtual expandable RAM, which is why you see that 12 gig, that plus 12 gigs, where it just uses a mixture of like, it uses the 12 gigs of RAM that's on there, and if you go over there, it'll start accessing your storage for further RAM to keep you from locking your phone up, which you won't really have to worry about that unless you're a really, really extremely heavy user. Moving on, cameras. You have on the front, you have a 16 megapixel on the left on the OnePlus 13 and a 32 megapixel on the right. So that's where you're really, really going to notice the difference in these devices as far as like actual hardware goes, because this is a flagship device. And you'll notice it even further once we go down a little bit and start looking at charging. But anyway, uh, 16 megapixel, 32 megapixel, and you'll see right here on the rear you have a 50 megapixel, an 8 megapixel ultra wide, and a 50 megapixel. And over here you have 50 megapixels across the board on the back. So the triple camera setup on both devices. Moving on down to, we can look at display really quickly. Display on this one, of course, is the larger display. You can see that. At 6.78 inches, and this one is 6.59 inches with the Pro XDR display, and supports adaptive eye care. I mean, they really put a lot of information in there. So what they don't talk about here, well, what they don't talk about on this device, and I think they chose to leave that out on purpose, because this device, while it does have fast charging, it doesn't have wireless charging. So on this device, you'll get 80-watt super VOOC charging that's plugging the cable in, and you'll get 50-watt wireless charging, which they call AirVOOC. On this one, I want to say, let me confirm before I misspeak. All right, so we're here, and you can get up to 80 watt with the OnePlus Super VOOC, which is the charger that it comes with, or OnePlus Super VOOC 100-watt dual ports power adapter. Either way, you can get 80-watt charging with either of these chargers. So, yeah, you can get fast charging here, but there is no wireless charging on this device. Okay? All right, so moving on. One thing I did want to mention is it's weird, and I'm not used to it, but let me turn them both off so you can see. The fingerprint readers are really low on both devices. Now, I have become really comfortable with them now, but when I first started familiarizing myself with these phones, I was always trying to go like right here, which is where it normally is, but it's like right above the bottom of the screen, right where the Google Chrome would be on both devices. I don't know why they chose that, but I'm sure it's something to do with the layout inside of the phone and everything like that. It's fine. It's not a deal breaker, but they are really low on both devices. All right, so moving on, like I said, the biggest difference you'll notice is with the actual hardware as far as like charging and the cameras. And I do apologize because I haven't done a camera. I can't. I'll say I can't do a camera comparison on both the devices because while I do have a ton of pictures on the OnePlus 13R, I made the mistake of wiping this Oppo without backing it up. Um, and the reason I wiped it is, which is going to help me segue into my next segment, which is SIM cards. Um, I wiped it because my AT&T SIM card started behaving oddly, where I could only text and do internet related things like going on social media and stuff like that, but I could not call out. It just would hang and not go any further, and then it would eventually just hang up. Um, but I could not dial out on this device. Now, with my T-Mobile SIM card, I have full functionality where I can do just anything. I can call out and it works just fine. On the OnePlus 13 in the US, it's going to work flawlessly. No matter what carrier you're on in the US, it's going to work. So you don't have to worry about that. But with this device, as much as I've tried to troubleshoot it, and I've done everything outside of call the actual cellular service provider, and I just don't want to do that because I know that they are going to just give me the runaround a bit because this is a foreign device, and I just don't want to waste my time with that. I'd rather just move on. But anyway, T-Mobile works no issues on the Oppo, and AT&T works as well because I have it work. It works just fine on my Oppo Find N5. I have full functionality where I can call out. I have 5G, and it's really good 5G, and everything just works flawlessly. But on this particular device, my AT&T card does not work for making calls. Don't know what's wrong with it. So that's just a non-factor in the US for the OnePlus 13R, and it is something to consider if you're looking at the Oppo Find X8 and importing it into the US. Um, and the last piece is, like I said, the cameras. I'll circle back around to the cameras. The Oppo Find X8 is going to be more solid all around as far as the cameras goes. It has really good colors and everything like that. It's just going to perform solidly. The OnePlus 13R is okay. And it gets really weak when you try to take ultra wide photos because of the 8 megapixel sensor that they use for that. Not a deal breaker, but just going to be slightly weaker. But overall, you're going to get decent photos. You won't blow any minds with these photos on this device at all. If you guys really, really want to see a photo comparison, I actually bought this tripod device here that holds two phones at a time. So if you guys really want to see that in the future, that'll give me a good excuse to go out and try to use that and take some good photos, some comparison photos between the two. Like I said, I had done quite a few, and I have some photos that I believe I show in the OnePlus 13R review, the full review that I did of it. But yeah, I'm sorry guys. I made a mistake with the Oppo and I wiped it before I backed up the photo, so I really apologize about that. But yeah, either way, these devices, for what you get, if you're not in the US, like I said, in the US, the OnePlus 13R is kind of a no-brainer if you don't want to have to um what's the tinker with the device to get certain things to behave, because you're going to get the full Android suite on here. Gemini AI, you can say the voice activation commands and everything like that. I won't say it because I don't want to trigger it. Um, on the Oppo Find X8, it comes with its own AI, which is, I believe they call it Brino. Let's go in here real quick and I'll show you guys. So if I go down to AI, you'll see Brino, which is their AI assistant on this device. So just something to keep in mind. It's going to be in Chinese. It's going to behave in Chinese. See, just the terms and services for you to agree to activate certain things is already in Chinese immediately. So I don't have that turned on. So if you're really relying and you've really become fond of your AI assistant on these devices, I understand, and you may want to go with the OnePlus unless you speak Chinese, and this one will work perfectly fine for you. I do not speak Chinese, so that's why I have it completely disabled, and I would just go into Gemini, and this is going to be my first time opening Gemini, but since I've started back setting the phone up, C models, I'm not going to do that right now. But anyway, I just trigger Gemini, then I ask it a question or blah, blah, blah. But yeah. I will say that the full Google service does work on this device. Now you do have to go in and let me show you real quick, just real quick. I can't wait to install that update. Actually, that's not the one I'm looking for. The Google mobile services. So you have that should be turned on when you power on the device. At least it was when I got it, and I think it was when I wiped the device and brought it back on. But you do have to go into the native app store on the device and install the Play Store, and then you can proceed with downloading all of your Google apps, and it works just fine. Every app works. I have had no issues, so don't worry yourself about that. Other than that, as far as the OS itself goes on both devices, Color OS and Oxygen OS are identical almost. I mean, just if you see down the layout of the icons may be slightly different, but overall the experience overall is just really really similar. Now you would have different wallpapers available, but you can always go online and download the wallpapers for each device if you really like one that you see here and it's not actually on your particular device. Just go download it. You'll see even here they have the same section, light and shadow, and they have very very similar options here. I mean, the exact same. And let's see, you have composition here, but you only have 3 here and you have 4 here. Yeah, it's just really, really minor differences between the two. Um, really, I really don't have to spend a lot of time on the OS because if you've seen one, you've seen the other. Except for one's just going to be more friendly to U.S. customers, which is the OnePlus. But other than that, like let's say for instance, just to show you one slight difference, if I go to widgets, you'll see widgets here, and it'll bring up on the OnePlus, it'll automatically bring up all of your Google stuff. But if you want your Google stuff on the Oppo, you go here and you search. Well, let me go back because maybe I'm wrong. It's always different because I use so many different phones, so I apologize for that. But if you scroll to the bottom of the home screen, you'll see home screen widgets, and that's where you'll see all of your Google related widgets. So, yep, they're there. They're just slightly different how you'll get to them. But overall, I mean, everything else is very, very similar. Even if you go to your layout, you see these are the only two options. Even though this one has a slightly higher resolution screen, you can't put more apps on the screen right now unless they add it with a later update. But 4x6 and 5x6, those are your options. So like I said, I won't spend too much time on the OS. Very similar. And you could choose to separate your notifications, or you could just choose that single pane of glass. I think you can do it on both devices. Let me check before I say. Let's see, notifications and quick settings. Yeah, let's see, status bar. Yep, so if you go to quick settings on both devices, you can choose whether you want to split your control center from your notifications, or you can just do classic where you'll get your control center at the top and then your notifications down below. Very similar, like I said. So, all right, y'all, I am back. All right, so to wrap this video up, and I'll say this is what happens when you don't charge your batteries like you should. And I apologize for that, but let's wrap this up. So, long story short, if you're in the US, the OnePlus 13R will probably be a no-brainer for you. But if you care more about your camera performing a little bit better and you want to get better cameras and have wireless charging, if you rely on that quite a bit, then the Oppo Find X8 will be the route for you to go. And that's really what's missing between the two devices overall is no wireless charging here and slightly downgraded cameras. And you have the overall camera package here, and you have wireless charging, and it's fast wireless charging. So that is the main difference. If you're concerned about software itself, both devices get regular updates and and security updates and everything like that. And the software experience is extremely, extremely similar between the two, especially with recent updates where you can customize your folders and everything to do the vertical or horizontal thing, or just make them really large to where you can click directly into the icon. Without having to open the folder and then click into them. They are very similar in that aspect. So OS, don't worry about that. I'll say that shouldn't be a deciding factor for you if you're in the market. Just keep in mind, wireless charging, AI assistant, Gemini on here, Brino on here, and cameras. That's it. That is the big difference. Overall, the phones both perform phenomenally. Battery life is amazing on both devices. Fast charging is amazing on both devices. So you're not missing out there. So anyway, really appreciate everybody tuning in, and I will catch you in the next one. Feel free to like and subscribe to support the channel. I'll catch y'all later.